If you're considering a career in medicine, this show is for you. I'm going to be talking to a variety of healthcare professionals who are going to share the reality of what it takes to have a successful career in medicine. The good, the bad, the inspiring, the funny. My name is Michelle Neske. I'm a physician assistant and your host, about to bring you Beyond the Scope. If you've done research into applying to physician assistant school, you know how crazy it is with all the different requirements and programs out there, and how do you choose which one is best for you? Well, luckily, two of my friends and PAs created an amazing platform that you can do this all in one place called My PA Box. Research schools by state, track your hours, look up all the requirements, literally in one spot at mypabox.com. You can also use their PA school match to enter in all your demographic information, your GPA, whether or not you took the GRE or PA CAT, and filter for schools that would be the best fit for you. You guys, this has been game changing for pre-PAs, and I use it all the time with my clients. You can go ahead and get a 1-year subscription. And because you're listening to this podcast, if you use Posh PA 15, you can get 15% off your 1-year subscription. You will not regret this if you are a pre-PA. It will sort things out so much for you and just make it easier to do the research on the programs that are the best fit for you. So check them out, mypabox.com. Okay. Well, you guys, on today's podcast, I have two dentists who are going to talk to us about their experience, going to dental school, the whole process of what it takes, what they're doing now, which is super amazing. Also, a little bit about how COVID-19 has been impacting you and as it's impacting the rest of us. So we have Emily Meyer and we have Louis Spear. Emily grew up in Pennsylvania, went to Penn State as an undergrad, and then did dental school in Maryland. She's a pediatric dentist, did her dental residency in Arizona. And Louis, it looks like you grew up in Maryland. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also went to undergrad in Maryland, went to dental school in Maryland, and did a residency in New Orleans, but is now completing an MD program to do OMFS, which is oral and maxillofacial surgery, for any of you who did not know that. So we're going to talk to them a little bit about how they chose this. So who wants to start first?
I'll start.
Emily's going to start first. Okay. So tell us, you went to Penn State and you had a nutrition degree, correct?
Yep. I went to Penn State, did all my basic science. It was covered in the nutrition degree. I think I had to add a few credits to qualify for dental school. And then, my dad's a dentist, and I think growing up, I kind of fought it a little bit. And then after college, I did a gap year or two where I shadowed some dentists, and then kind of wanted to make sure it's really what I wanted to do, and then applied and got in at Maryland. So
nice. Okay. Great. And so your dad, was he a specialty dentist or just kind of?
He wasn't. He did public health dentistry, so he worked in the penitentiary system. So he was all about service and public health, and it's funny now because he doesn't like working with kids, so he doesn't. He was like, I don't know how you do that.
When you shadowed, did you shadow other health professions or?
Not as much. A little bit in high school I did, but then I sort of quickly, I always did a lot of art and things with my hands as well. And so I kind of knew I wanted to go to dentistry. I think I had to just really 100% be committed before I wanted to really dive in. And during interviews, I think people appreciate that. And a lot of our friends and classmates had similar experiences where they took a year to kind of figure out 100% what they wanted to do.
So smart.
Yeah.
And because I tell people that all the time, if I get a lot of questions from young people who are in high school and, early in college, and I want to be a PA. And I said, well, how did you choose between PA and MD and all these other things? And I said, well, I just shadowed I mean, I think it's important to kind of see everybody's role and see what you think is the right fit, right?
For sure. And I never would have, even with pediatric dentistry, I never would have thought about it. But I shadowed a pediatric dentist and I was amazed at how she was able to do her job. And so I think the more time that people can spend, even within one field with different people in that field, just to really, you never know what's going to kind of spark your interest. And then there's no question, you're fully committed. And I think it makes it a little easier to move forward.
Yeah, I actually love my kid's dentist. I did not have a good dental experience. I got to be honest with y'all. I brushed my teeth for this podcast, but during COVID-19, my teeth brushing has not been as regular as it normally is, and I'm embarrassed. But I had a lot of orthodonture as a child, and my experience at the dentist was like, I still have kind of like frightening, thoughts about when I was a kid at the dentist. And I brought Mia and I was like, this place is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
can they be my dentist? Like,
I know.
It's just like the whole thing is just so different. I feel
Yeah.
like than being an adult going to the dentist.
It's a lot different than when I was a child too. And we have a lot of parents who are like, can I please come here?
Yes.
Kind of funny.
Get a free toy at the end.
Yeah.
So it's just a very calming experience for them, very pleasant, not a huge deal. So I think it's awesome. I think it's great. All right, you're up, Lewis.
All right, so why dental? So I'll say when I was 17 or 18. When I was 17 or 18, I was a personal trainer. Just really liked the idea of learning more. How can I keep learning more? That was when internet was pretty popular. It went on, and then you could do these courses. So I did some personal training course. And then in undergrad, it was like you either were part of this pre-med society or pre-dental society. And I knew I had no idea. So I asked my father, who was a plastic surgeon at the time, and he said, the way things are going, I'd recommend dental. And I was thinking, okay, why? He gave me some reasons I'm still not quite sure about. I'm learning as I get older.
Yeah.
And he said, what you should do is take the MCAT and the DAT together and whatever you score, apply. I was thinking, yeah, no thanks. No. And I said, all right, I'll just go dental because I shadowed a bunch of different people.
Okay.
Your shadowing typically shapes what you think the field is like, as you well know, which is usually just a small glimpse into what it really is.
Yeah.
So the glimpse that I got was probably biased, but it led me towards dental just by the people who I shadowed.
Yeah.
I didn't shadow a plastic surgeon, believe it or not. I think I shadowed a dermatologist and a couple internal medicine, just family docs, or one family doc and maybe a couple like internal medicine subtypes, like a hematologist and a normal, just a family doc, but of internal medicine. And then I shadowed some dentists. Yeah. And I think the thing that drew me into dentistry was more that I had more of a relationship with it. As a kid, I went to a pediatrician.
Yeah.
As a child, I went to a pediatric dentist, then I went to a dentist, then I went to an orthodontist. So I just felt more comfortable with, I've been there. I know these people. It was a decent time. I mean, the kids dentist, I agree, it was awful for me. It was. I had a terrible time, but that was self-inflicted wounds, right? That was me. Take full of time, didn't brush right. What do you expect?
I know.
Happened.
Sames. Yeah.
I had braces twice because they were so
me
bad.
Me too. Twice.
Yeah, it was awful. And I just thought, like, if I could do anything, I got to change this to the rest of the people. So I went in thinking I was going to do ortho. So you always have like one or two mentors. So I always think nobody's truly self-made. There's always one or two people behind the scenes that got you to where you're at. Yep. So he was my mentor, had a heart attack, first year dental school. So I was like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? I didn't really know any other orthodontists.
Yeah.
It's very weird for me to go shadow another random orthodontist. So the next person's life that I really liked, I wanted to be like or embody, was an oral surgeon. He helped guide me through the process. So I chose oral surgery. Little did I know it was extremely competitive.
Yeah.
So very competitive. So I applied. I didn't get in right away. So when you don't get in, I didn't give up and just stop. Right. Push through adversity, plants the seed. So I did this interim year. That's that year in New Orleans. It was a rough year, but it was worth it. It eventually got me a position in Kansas City to be part of this integrated program where you get an MD. In oral surgery, there are two options. There's a 4-year track or 6-year. The only difference is 2 additional years for the MD.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I'm at 3 of 6. So I've completed the
Okay.
MP component, and I'm just training for 3 years through this COVID thing, and then we're
Yeah.
done. But it's a long path. If you think about it, it's
It
7 years
really
post
is.
grad for me,
7 years
right? I
post-grad.
did dental
Yeah.
4, and then I 1, and then 6.
So total it will be 11 after college.
So most people are complaining about a
Right.
few years after college. I'm gonna be like, you got to have a long-term perspective in mind. You can't have
Yes.
if you're not thinking long-term, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's just the growth of a chart can only
Yeah.
grow so far if you don't give it the time.
So 11 years post-college for you.
Yeah.
And Emily, how long for you?
For me, it will be 6. My residency was 2 years, but some
Okay.
pediatric dental residencies are 3 years. So
Okay.
mine
Still
was-
a long time though.
yeah.
It's the long haul for sure.
Oh, it's about as long as it gets. I think
I think
neurosurgery-
you and Dave I think he had 11 also. He did obviously 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residency, and 3 years of fellowship.
Wow.
I think you'll have me by a year.
So I was like, get
Don't give me any idea. I talked about fellowship with my wife. It's off the table.
I know. It's like, please don't do it.
get a job. I was like, I mean, at that point, we had been together when he decided to do the 3-year fellowship. I was like, oh my gosh, we've been married for 5 years at that point, and I'm like, are you ever going to get a job? But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like, and he's very good at what he does. He's very happy about what he does. And
It's
so
worth it to
it's
be
worth
happy.
it.
It is.
At the end, right now it's a little scary, but man, it is a long-term goal for sure. That's a
Wow.
long time. So the DAT is basically like the MCAT. Is it, how long is that test? What is that?
It's going to be the same as the MCAT. It's probably
Same.
400 questions, 100 per 4 different things.
Okay.
Like your chem, your bio, your math.
Yeah.
And then I think the other one is this perceptual ability test, PAT.
Okay.
Where you got to look at angles, see which one's biggest to smallest, put
wow.
keys through holes. Realistically, it's just another arbitrary test,
Yeah.
which doesn't have much practicality to standardize.
And what about boards and stuff for you guys? What does that look like?
Boards, they have two parts of boards usually. So there's different regions of the country that have different dental boards. We took the NERB, which is the Northeast Region dental board. So we took part 1. Maryland's a little different, where we take the first part of boards after the first year. So our first year of dental school was packed with, we probably had 3 to 4 tests a week.
I think it was 67 tests or something.
Yeah, we had a ton. Our first year was really hard, and we took the first part of boards after the first year, where most schools you take it after the second year.
Yeah.
And then you take another written board your 4th year, and then you have a patient-based board your 4th year as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
It's pass-fail though, so it has evolved, which most systems are.
Mm-hmm.
So now the med school system one.
Yes.
PAT MCAT is scored. Who knows how long that will be? Most likely forever.
Yeah.
But like ophthalmology, I think is like pass-fail boards. Ours now is pass-fail. Ours was we were the first year, so that was in 2013.
Yeah.
And now this upcoming year, as you know, USMLE now, which is the med part, is pass-fail. So I think it's a trend.
Yeah.
It is a trend.
Yeah. Our boards get scored, but it's really pass or fail. You get a score, but it's pass fail. I mean, you have to take the PANCE. It's the, PA national certification exam when you first graduate. And then when I graduated, it was every 6 to 7 years. You had to recertify. Now it's every 10 years. So I've taken it 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And so now I'm finally in the 10-year track. But now it's even though it's scored, it's really you get a pass or fail. So,
is
so
that
it's
the
kind of
type where when you take it, you get some right, it can end earlier or no? Or no?
No.
It's you do all these questions and then you're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a 4-hour test, same, like you kind of go in and for PAs, it covers everything. So
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
do oncology, but there's pediatrics on there, there's orthopedics on there. So it's, on one hand, it's kind of annoying. On the other hand, it's kind of good because then you're like, if I decided to change specialties tomorrow, like at least I'd have something, that I could remember, but it is challenging when you're not in that field to kind of go back and do that again. But that's interesting because it's a lot different, and obviously for medical school they just changed it too. So, so when did you guys meet? Let's talk about the good stuff. When did have you been going through all this together, or?
We met in the first semester of dental school, so like fall of 2012. Our first time we kind of went out on a date was Halloween of that year. So,
nice.
And then by Christmas we were pretty much dating. So we've been together through the whole journey so far. Yeah, we've seen the best and worst in each other for sure.
Yeah, so stress usually brings out some interesting things.
Yeah. So now, but you have done a little long distance too, because you were in Louisiana for a while and all of that. So I get a lot of questions about that. How did you manage that?
I think that, so when I matched right away out of dental school. So I moved to Arizona while Lewis moved to New Orleans. And then, so I was alone for 2 years in Arizona. Yeah. I think part of it is both of our programs were so intense that, I mean, you kind of just stay so busy that you don't have a lot of time to think about it. And then just every weekend, I'd say once every 3 to 4 months, we would plan a weekend either where I would go to New Orleans or he would come to me. It was hard though. It was really hard. And I think my program had 6 residents each year. So we had 12 total, which I think the more people in your program, the more, obviously the more you have going on. So the less you feel lonely in a way. But it was hard. I don't think it's easy for anybody that goes through it, for sure.
No, I agree. We had I think it was like every 3 weeks we'd fly out to each other, and they were like a day and a half because you fly Friday night. It was terrible, priced. New Orleans, not a big airport. Either was Tucson.
Right.
So you get small airport tax. It was a costly, fun time, but it gave. Honestly, I always looked forward to it. So every other weekend, it gave me something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So that helped the time really fly by.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's also, Dave and I were both in school together at the same time. There is something good about that because like when you have to study or, when you're doing it together. So you're like, okay, we have to do this. It stinks, but at least we're doing it together. We were long distance drivable though. He was in Albany, New York. I was in Connecticut. And so we would drive the 2.5 hours, 3 hours. But not every weekend is possible. So like every other weekend or whatever, but it does give you something to look forward to, even if you're just studying at the same table.
Yeah.
Like there were many times where he would come and we'd go to the library, and just study, for hours. Yep. But then at the same time, found a couple restaurants we liked, made those our like places to go. And so there is something nice about having somebody there going through the same thing that you're going through at the same time. It's challenging in a lot of ways.
It was totally challenging. I felt like we'd come and we'd want to do so many things, but you couldn't do so much stuff. Then you're just like stressed out about there not being much time to do anything, and then you don't know what to do.
Right. And then you're like, okay, look, we have free time. What do we do? Should we go outside? I mean, it's a weird thing. And so, I think the other thing too, that's important to note is that in these health professional careers, particularly like dental, medical, whatever, there's a lot of traveling. There's a lot of relocation.
It's constant moving and not knowing where your next step is. And the match process, I think for all medical professions and dental, you don't get to choose. It's all like a rank list. So you're just, okay, I'm moving to Arizona tomorrow. A lot of it's just adjusting and moving forward and trying to keep, like Lewis said, I think the big picture in mind so that eventually, there's something better coming.
Yeah. So when is the match day for like dental? When is that? Did it happen?
Yeah, I think it already happened. What is it? I want to say it's in February.
I think
I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'm so far removed.
I think mid to late January from what I remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're right. I think it's like the 26th of January.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you get an email just like with medical, I think, that tells you kind of where you matched. And one nice thing that happened was as a senior resident, we have to present at our national pediatric dental conference. And my year it was in Hawaii. And so Louis was able
Ooh,
to come with me for a week to Hawaii, which was really
that's nice.
nice.
That's
So,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that's
I mean the relocating piece and that like whole up in the air, we relocated now 4 times. I mean, so, we were in New York, Connecticut, whatever, Miami,
mhm.
Texas, South Carolina.
I
I'm
think
like,
this is the first time we've ever bought like real furniture because you just
yes.
you're like, oh, whatever, I'll just sell it in 1 year to the next group of residents.
Yes. So we bought this house when we moved here in 2014, and we had enough furniture for one room.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like every piece of furniture that we had in our apartment, whatever, in our living room was in like the playroom for like Mia's playroom. And then we had our bedroom and that was it. Like we
Yeah.
had nothing.
That's pretty much how we are. So,
We're like, we don't have anything. We didn't keep anything. We're just
yeah.
like, might as well just start over, like you just keep moving it. But,
Yep.
and it's hard. I think it's hard at first, particularly, you're not that young anymore, making new friends, and plus you're working all the time and,
Mhm.
all of those things. It's not that easy to keep relocating. And as you get older, it's harder. But at the same time, again, big picture, now we're here. We absolutely love it. We love being here. We love living here. I know we'll be here for a while, but I don't know that we'll be here forever because,
Mhm.
you know,
Never know.
so it's just that
Yep.
mindset. It's just that mindset of knowing, right? So,
Yep.
so one of the really cool things that Emily and Lewis have done is you started Spear Smile. So let's talk about that because that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Lewis and I for a while had talked about, there's a huge, especially in my industry with pediatric dentistry, there's a huge population of untreated dental care. And we kind of had talked for a while about doing a mission-based project. We just, as going from school to work, it's still demanding, but you definitely have more free time. And so I think
Yeah.
we just had kind of thought about doing something on the side. And then Lewis, I don't know how he got into contact with someone who helped design home teeth whitening kits. And they, we kind of talked about doing that. And I really wanted to be on board as long as it was something where it gave back. I really wanted to find a way to do something to give back to others, give back to children.
Yeah, definitely. Giving back is huge.
Yeah.
Kind of what you're doing with the pre-PAs and that generation. That's one of our goals as well.
Yeah.
And helping these kids as well, helping the next generation or generation after that to help them not think the same way we think about pediatric dentists. They usually don't like them because they go there with problems or things that need to be addressed.
Right.
You went there without an issue, you'd love it.
Right. Yeah.
You change, you do, and then they tell their children it's not bad. You could do a big shift and have people their perspective just by giving them some preventative care measures like access to toothbrushes and fluoridated toothpaste. And that's where we're starting. That's the starting purpose, is to give those things to underserved. Eventually, when the thing is up and running, just a % of the proceeds will be going towards mission trips as well. But right now, just to keep it simple, it's these oral care kits.
And the oral care kits are just simple things like I would take for granted, like a toothbrush, a toothpaste, floss, So for every whitening kit, you basically donate an oral care kit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we worked with Global Mission Trips. We have a partner here in the Kansas City area called Hope Dental, where we've gone with them to some, they do free community screening events. And so we volunteer time to be the dentist basically at these events. And then also we give out our oral care kits to kind of sponsor their mission. It kind of works together. They go into a lot of schools and provide free dental screenings to kids whose parents can't bring them to the dentist. We see a lot of kids who are, they don't have housing. They are basically homeless. Parents don't have forms of transportation.
Yeah.
So like you said, the things that a lot of people take for granted, even getting to a dental appointment, it's just, there's a whole nother population out there that is forgotten by a lot of programs. And so we saw a need of, well, if we could work with them to provide oral care kits, with the goal of eventually sponsoring more events.
Yeah.
We're kind of growing at,
Yeah, it takes
the
time.
process.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's been really awesome, and they're so grateful for the help. And so it's been a fun learning process.
It's a great learning. You just learn, just like in PA school or med school or dental school, you learn maybe your practice. There's a lot you don't know. So like here
yeah.
So here was something that you typically recommend, but then learning how to create it, how to design it, how to market it, how to get in the right thing, how to have a mission-driven cause.
Yeah.
How to be accountable, how to be a really nice person and great customer service. And there's just a lot of things that you're taught to just be a doctor, you're taught to just be a PA, you're taught to just be a dentist. But realistically, you got to wear a lot of hats. So this would be a great educational learn by doing experience for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was never trained in business or marketing or any of these things. Like, I'm like, what am I doing over here? Like trying to like run a business from home, like, and I mean, it's a huge learning curve, and I'm still learning. And I kind of feel like you guys do that. If I have something to give back, to somebody, then and help them in some way, I think it's the ultimate mission, of wanting to give back to people and create scholarships and, do that kind of stuff. So, but I love the idea of what you're doing. And by the way, the teeth whitener works really well. I have one, but it works really well. And I love the mission behind it. I think it's so amazing. And I applaud you guys for doing that. Because, when, like you said, you're taught to be a doctor and you're like, here's the recommendation, or you're taught to be a PA or a dentist and like, here's the recommendation. And then you get in the clinic and you tell somebody that, and they're like, but I can't even get here. I can't afford that. I don't have a computer at home, even just doing some of these visits with people, like virtual visits, like they don't have like a camera computer, or they don't know how to set up my chart, or they don't even have Wi-Fi access in some areas of South Carolina. So it's like there's so many other pieces that you have to learn about throughout this process. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things any profession, when you come out of school, like you said, you're taught, okay, you have this, here's what the patients have to do, you're so used to learning what you're supposed to tell people to do. And then you're like, oh,
this is how the real world works.
Yeah. Like, you can't do any of those if you can't get your appointment, there are a lot of things that, and I think that's kind of learning compassion and trying to realize everybody's position in life. And it's a learning and humbling process, I think, for most medical providers, dental, medical, whatever field you're in. And so I think that's kind of what we wanted to do.
Give back at all levels. And what you said with scholarships, another thing we want to do as well.
Yeah.
For sure. We want to give back to pre-dentals like a ton. And this is just, I'd say, our starting point to learning how to do the blind venture, to then broaden this as a bigger thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
I don't know. I just feel like a lot of providers want to give back in some way. But it's just, we all have different interests, and I think it's awesome that we all found each other on social media, which is even more awesome. But let's talk a little bit about COVID-19 before we go. And how is that affecting the dental industry? Obviously a lot. And I know, with Dave being a head and neck surgeon, ENT's at a high risk, for all of this. And as I can imagine, dentists as well, being literally in the oral cavity. So what has that looked like for y'all?
Yeah, I think for most of the research and guidance that we've gotten from the American Dental Association, the biggest thing is most dental procedures create aerosols. We're
Right.
using high-speed handpieces with water, and so saliva is getting aerosol all around us. And so no matter what mask you wear, no matter what PPE you wear, it is there. So I think the biggest concern with dentistry was limiting or stopping all procedures that generate aerosols, which basically is all operative procedures. So fillings, crowns, basically the bread and butter of dentistry.
Right.
And so then with social distancing as well, they kind of recommended limiting any, cleanings, anything that was kind of elective. And so right now, most dentists are open only for emergency treatment. So infection, pain, swelling, things of that nature. And I know there's different regulations in different states. Some are completely closed. Some dental offices are completely closed. Some, I know in Pennsylvania, they just talked about only providing treatment in like an operating room with negative pressure.
Wow.
I know that was reversed a little bit because, if someone needs at least an exam or trauma or things like that, that was not feasible. But most dental offices are closed except for emergencies and trauma right now.
Yeah. Wow. It's such a crazy time. But I mean, I think for the protection of patients and you guys,
our staff and everybody's interested now. If everyone's been to the dentist, it's a smaller office. Everyone's pretty, not that you're close to each other, but it's a smaller space. And so we're wondering if there are going to be new regulations just on how and what our future is going to look like as dentists and for the field in general. So we will see.
And you work at a larger practice, you said, right?
I work at a larger practice. So a lot of times we have 2 doctors in each office. And so we probably have like 10 to 12 patient columns running out of one office every day. So that's a lot of people. So we'll see what things look like, going forward, if they're going to try to space people out or only for certain people by number, by hour. Or whatever. So we'll see. But right now we're kind of on a pause. Very
I know. Well, for everybody, really. I mean, it's a challenge. Even I think going forward, it will affect outpatient clinics in a lot of different, specialties and areas and things. But if you had one piece of advice to tell someone that was thinking of going to dental school or wanted to be a dentist, what do you think you'd tell them?
I feel like I would tell them to network. I mean, there's so many, you never know. The dentist that you go shadow might have a friend who is a friend of someone that's a professor at a school who, can connect you with another mentor. Like Lewis said, when you look back at where you've come from, you definitely see those 1 or 2 people that have been basically the people who have pushed you or have allowed you to get where not allowed you, but helped you to get where you are. Right. So you never know who that person's going to be. So connect, network, continue to learn. That's what I think, because you can be an A+ student, but if you don't have the people skills and the connections, it's going to be, you're not going to move forward as much.
Yeah. That's great advice, actually. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What about you?
My advice is read the book, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh, I read that.
Read that book. Read it maybe every 3 years. Just read it. You'll never not learn something and get something.
Yeah.
It's only going to help you in any field or industry. And then 2, it would be shadow as many different opportunities as there are, which means you would have to reach out to many different places. If it's PA offices, medical, and the offices, just ask around. And I think a lot of people are afraid of being judged for emailing and not being allowed. The truth is you only miss 100% of the shots you don't take. email as many people as you can. At one point
Yeah.
when I was pre-dental or something, I think every day I'd send out 3 or 4 emails every single day, maybe
Yeah.
last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You just have to have that mindset of reaching out and assuming you're not going to get a response,
Yeah.
and being pleasantly surprised with one and going to explore that. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's probably a good thing.
Yes, that's so true. I get that a lot. Like when I say to people, just ask somebody, like do something, like and then somebody messaged me and said, well, some PAs told me that it's unprofessional to do that. I'm like, no, like this is your opportunity. Like if this is what you want to do, then these are the opportunities that you need to take. And you're so right. Like you have to take shots, at what you think you want to do. And I think shadowing is underestimated a lot of the time. People will ask me, do I have to shadow? I'm like, well, you don't have to, but you should. I mean, that's like the best way to know what you wanted to do. I mean, I shadowed a doctor. I didn't want to be him. But I just think that's such great advice from both of you. And, I just think that you have such good intentions with everything you do. You guys are awesome. And thank you so much for being on this podcast. And I know I've learned a lot about the dental process, and you've taught a lot of people today what it takes to get to be in your shoes. So I appreciate it.
Aw, thanks for having us. This was great.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
And if anybody's ever interested in dental, or you can contact us.
2 mentors for life. Just mess
Yay! I love that. Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.